Taylor Barnard has broken yet another record this weekend on his path to an epic rookie season in Formula E, while further down the ladder the likes of Freddie Slater and Evans Giltaire have been battling to see who could follow in his footsteps. Hello and welcome fellow motorsports fans. This may be a feeder series focused show usually, but there is nothing quite like seeing young feeder series graduates do well in their new fully professional homes, so I am super excited about all of that. But naturally we'll also talk about all of the feeder series action, so let's get straight to it. We'll start things slow with the second round of the Formula Winter Series, where we've been able to witness a surprisingly stable top 10 across the racing so far. Us Racing and High Tech still lead the way, with Gabriel Gomez and Leo Robinson now very much the two distinct title rivals. Van Amersfoort Racing also still in the mix, with Max Popov back on the podium and Dante Vinci also having a pretty strong weekend across the board. We can't highlight all of the great midfielders, but Maxime Rehm definitely deserves a shout out, coming back from the incredibly heartbreaking triple disqualification at the end of a strong weekend last time out to take another podium and his second ever car racing win here. He'd be right in the title fight without those disqualifications. He lost about 40 odd points if I remember correctly, so all of this is a little sad naturally, but nonetheless what a comeback drive. The large number of women on the grid were all struggling a little bit this time out, but at least Nina Gateman had a lot stiffer competition from Alicia Pomowski and Chloe Chambers this time around. High Tech also didn't look quite as OP, so that checks out. Obviously, I'm really hoping we can see a few more point scoring runs from some of them, but let's keep in mind that at the end of the day, this is all just about getting more seat time. And finally, David Walter gave his F4 debut for Meffa Racing. Not much to talk about on the surface level other than he did alright, so you might be wondering why I mentioned him in the first place. In my opinion, he is a fairly big what-if kind of case from karting. Stuck as the benchmark driver for Tony Kart, a prestigious team by all means, but recently one struggling to find success on an international level. Thus, I feel like Walter is quite a bit better than his CV suggests, and much like Fia McLaughlin, he also has a history of being incredibly unlucky the last few years, so I do wish him all the best. Staying in F4, but moving to the Middle East, our sick 2v2 title fight keeps delivering, even though Emanuele Olivieri is now by all means considerably clear from Kean, Nakamura-Berta and Alex Powell in the points. K&B did have a huge opportunity to close the points gap when Olivieri ran into an early incident in race 2, only for K&B to also get into an accident later down the line. We very much know how the dynamic between these four goes now, and for a real change we'll have to wait for the summer, but the racing they put on is still fantastic. Instead of dwelling on the stars too long, let's talk about three rather different returning drivers: Adam Alazari, Rino Franco and Martin Molnar. Adam Alazari, despite being the least experienced of the trio, has been nothing but consistent so far, clocking in top 10 performances race after race, but struggling in the wheel-to-wheel duels whenever there's a chance to go any further. Rino Franco has understandably been a bit more hit or miss given his struggling team, but he managed to secure his maiden F4 win in the reverse grid race here, while on the flip side, Martin Molnar unfortunately looks nothing like the quick Hungarian we've seen in British F4 last year. These last 2 weeks have been rather disappointing, and I do hope he can bounce back soon. Which midfield drivers are you keeping an eye on? Share with us down in the comments. Before we move on, the quick obligatory rookie mention where Salim Anar is still comfortably the best newcomer, even secured his first proper podium this weekend. But I do want to mention that highly anticipated Alexander Bondarev is slowly but steadily improving. I have mentioned this in the past, but for me, seeing this sort of super believable, understandable trajectory does give me a lot of optimism that he will get near the potential he has shown in karting in the future. In the slightly quicker Formula region in the Middle East, the title fight is also still in full swing, with fast Freddie Slater striking back against Evans Giltaire's excellence this weekend to bring the points gap down to only 17 moving into the last round. It does look like a case of track proficiency to me personally, given that Slater has dominated both the standard Yas Marina rounds while struggling a bit in the other two in contrast. Either way, Lusail, being a circuit neither has raced at yet, should potentially have a straight fire season finale. Hiro Yamakoshi may have had an entirely forgettable debut last time out, but boy did he make up for it here, charging his likely outgunned pinnacle machine into the points on a consistent basis and, crucially, beating his fellow countryman Jin Nakamura and Taito Kato on the road while doing so. This very much looked like the Yamakoshi we know from Italian F4. He may not be a big headline driver just yet, but he should not be this far below the radar by any means. We've talked about believable, consistent improvement in the F4 segment, and we've had another example of this here. Akshay Bora's slow rise to FR proficiency from struggling well down the pack in the season opener to a well-managed reverse grid pole all the way to a comfortable maiden victory here. Yes, it may only be the reverse grid, but it still showed that the potential is there and that he is still very much improving rapidly. I'd arguably expect him quite a bit higher up the pecking order in the summer. And finally, the big show in Formula E, where we have witnessed the first ever pit boost, so effectively proper pit stops for the first time in Formula E history. I'll have to say, for how long a wait it was, it has been not particularly spectacular, but it worked nice and clean and as intended. And I did really enjoy the fact that race 1 was thus a lot more pushing and less coasting past people into corners. It felt more like a proper race than the peloton style we're used to. Either way, we'll see how this develops, but at least this has convinced me it won't be a bad addition by any stretch. Now, let's get the Taylor Barnard fanboying segment out of the way. What an incredible run this kid has had in Formula E so far. For all those currently looking at F1, not sure whether they should allow themselves to be excited for Kimi yet, keep in mind Barnard was his biggest rival on the way up. A true success story from struggling for budget to really making the most of his professional opportunity at the first time of asking. Youngest ever pole sitter is really just a bonus at this point. It's really time to talk about when we will get to see that first career win. In that vein, to get his first career win, he does have to stop the magic man, Ollie Rowland. A very different kind of success story, but equally one I am super pleased to see after a sickness took him out of title contention last year. And crucially, we kinda have to ask now, who can even stop him? Because neither Porsche nor Jaguar look like they've come to play to that level so far this year. Reigning champion Wehrlein has been little more than an afterthought, to be honest. 23 champ Jake Dennis isn't doing any better either. And even the ever-reliable Nick Cassidy is really struggling to impact these races at the front. What didn't help either was Penske ace and race 1 winner Maxi Günther taking out not just himself but also Antonio Felix da Costa in race 2 and thus clocking an early season DNF for 2 key title hopefuls. Yes, it is Formula E, so you'd expect this sort of thing to strike everyone at some stage, just saying that this is a little early to put yourself on the back foot like that. Last but not least, we'll have to talk about the other rookies. Zane Maloney and David Bachmann are both having a pretty tough time with things. Maloney in particular does not look like the racy boy from Barbados we've come to know and love. Yes, neither car is particularly great, but Tictum and Degrassi have at least made some waves in the pack. Admittedly, Beckman actually had a good run in the pack, but just got left behind once it came to the pushing stage, so this may actually be more on the powertrain than on him. Either way, we know this is a really tricky series for rookies, but it is equally a top-level championship filled with teams that have little time for this sort of underperforming, so I am slowly getting worried. Do you think I'm being reasonable, or is it way too early to judge? Let me know down in the comments. Either way, that was already it from the Formula Racing side, but of course it wouldn't be Race Week Review without a quick weekly karting report. Both the Rotax and the IEME European Series have had their winter kickoff races this weekend to give us a little preview of what the season may look like, and I'll quickly run you through the 4 most important categories. Starting with the Rotax Winter Series, and with the juniors for a change, the weekend provided quite a lot of interesting stories, but let's focus on the 2 most interesting ones. The breakout drive Christian Sejersen had here to win in pretty dominant fashion. I've watched him race all year last year, and this is far and away the best I've seen him do. And Albie Frand had his proper junior debut and quickly proved that he is already basically up to speed. A P2 here thanks to a lot of chaos, and I'm sure it won't take him long to find that first W. In the seniors, Macaulay Bishop put in a defensive masterclass, leading lights to flag under massive pressure to win ahead of British star duo Sean Butcher and Kai Hunter. Shout out to Ties van Wijk as well, first proper weekend in the seniors I think, and already matching his more experienced brother with a strong top 10 run on the road, even if he did get penalised down post-race. Over in Spain, the IEME Winter Cup took place at the same time, and here the junior final delivered quite the chaotic fun race. Alexander Grieling on top, Riley Cranham and Jesse Phillips going toe-to-toe, but I want to highlight one of my personal favourites as always. Zdeněk Babicák with an excellent debut, immediately fighting right at the front all weekend and a proper win contender, even if he did get shuffled down a bit in the end. Keep an eye on this young Czech driver. And in the seniors, reigning European champion Danny Caronini got gifted a dominant win, but the real stars for me were the youngsters. Tibor Ramekes and his rookie opponents Zach Green and Kenzo Craigie putting on a great show in the battle for P2. Wicked debut for Kenzo Craigie specifically, given just how young the Mercedes Junior is to be racing amongst the seniors. We've had some news regarding new faces in F2 and F3, but we'll get to that in the respective preview videos. This is also a quick service announcement. There most likely won't be a regular episode next week as I'm not here, but I will try my best to get the F2 preview made in time, so there should still be a video to watch next week at least. As always, please leave me all of your thoughts and opinions down in the comments so we can get our lovely little discussion going. And otherwise, I thank you all for watching, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.